So, as I did with Season 4, we will wrap up the Spongebob Season 5 review with two top 10 lists. We will start with what I consider to be the best of the season, and next week, probably, we will look at the worst episodes from Season 5. Let's go.
Hey!
Number 10, Roller Cowards. This episode is just decent all around. I like the story as it's a very realistic depiction of, being scared and not wanting anyone to know. There are some good jokes in this episode sprinkled in, but it's not the funniest of the season or anything. There are some nice touches here though, like Glove World returning and characters like Larry the Lobster appearing at it. I also think the whole scene with the Fist of Pain is pretty great, and there are some really good animation in the episode. Number 9, Friend or Foe. This is one of kind of the biggest episodes of the show in terms of plot. A real backstory for Crabs and Plankton was kind of needed, even though, it's very inconsistent with the rest of the show. This episode isn't that great with the comedy as it's story focused, but this kind of works because unlike episodes like Pest of the West, you kinda have to be invested in the story. It's Mr. Krabs' childhood, like of course you want to see that. Mr. Krabs and Plankton being babies in that one scene is so adorable, and this is not the only time on this list we will see the characters as babies. Number 8, Sing a Song of Patrick. This episode has a kind of rocky start with Patrick stealing SpongeBob's money, but after that it's all smooth sailing as this episode is just fun. Patrick making a song is a kind of no-brainer plot. Of course a song written by him will be hilarious. There are some great lines here from Squidward and the band, and the plot wraps up really nicely with the dodgeballs that were set up earlier in the episode. They come back. Patrick can come off like a bit of a jerk to some, especially when they climb up the radio tower, but I found it way funnier than annoying. So I liked it. Number 7 is 20,000 Patties Under the Sea. This episode is underrated. I think what most people remember about this is the great roasting session Plankton has where he is on demon timing, destroying like a whole family. But this episode is just a vibe all the way through. The idea of Patrick and SpongeBob flying this small shuttle around making patties feels like something straight out of pre-movie. There are some good jokes here as well, and they really pulled off this monster character. I'm really happy they didn't just make him an antagonist that they had to escape from or something, and instead decided that, he would be the customer. Number 6, Crabs a la mode. This is one of the most beloved post-movie episodes, and for good reason. The setting is great. It feels really refreshing to see the Krusty Krab frozen, as the winter setting is very sparingly used in the show, and we have never seen something like this before. The thermostat bit is really funny, and so is all the chaotic scenes with the ice, with the hockey team and Patrick licking the ice thing. It's hilarious. Also, the ending with the Krusty Krab being warm and stuff, and they having like pools, it looks so good. They should have more changes like this so the restaurant it's really refreshing to see a different take on the restaurant. I wish they could have done this in season 7 or 8, where they have 30 Krusty Krab episodes. It would kind of have made for some more refreshing ideas. Number 5 is The Donut of Shame. This is my second favorite short. Patrick as a protagonist has pretty much never failed for me, and he is just so likable in this episode. The whole plot isn't that original, but since it's short and there is some great comedy with Patrick, it really works. I like the conclusion plot twist as well, as it makes sense and was foreshadowed in the opening scene. Number 4 is Bucket Sweet Bucket. This episode feels so much like pre-movie. The plot just works so good, as the simple setting and story lets the characters' interactions go so fluently. Also, this is one of the first times Plankton and Squidward interact in the show, and it doesn't disappoint at all. This has got to be like top 10 most underrated episodes ever, because it's literally never talked about. Matter of fact, I forgot this episode existed until I saw it on the IMDb page before my rewatch, and I had no idea, like, anything that happened in the episode. While some might say this episode is kind of dull, and that's probably why it's a bit forgettable, I think it being so simple, it's kind of the charm of it, and what makes it such a vibe to watch. Number 3. Goo Goo Gas. All the characters are babies, and unlike in Camp Coral, it's actually cute. Plankton as a protagonist is kind of a hidden miss, especially with the formula plots, but in this episode, it just feels really refreshing, and he was a great main character here. He had some really good lines and just a hilarious plan. It also helps that this plot is very original and feels just very new in season 5. Also, Baby Patrick. And the second best episode of season 5 is Spy Buddies. This episode has one of the best cartoon plot twists I've ever seen. It is foreshadowed, but you have no idea that it's coming. This episode is also really funny. Patrick and Spongebob is a pretty great comedic duo, and the James Bond spoofs just work so well with the plots. I think this might be my favorite team up of Sponge and Patrick, as this episode just has so many good jokes. The ending reminds me of I Had an Accident and is pretty much just as confusing, but it's still great. Now, before I tell you the best episode, in my opinion, of season 5, we will go through 3 honorable mentions. Number 1, To Save a Squirrel. I really wanted to have this on the list, but season 5 just has too many good episodes. To Save a Squirrel is just really dark and different. I really like the setting and the vibe, but the reason it doesn't make the list is the slow beginning and that the ending twist doesn't make any sense at all. The next honorable mention is The Two Faces of Squidward. I really appreciate how in this episode, after Squidward gets handsome, and no, I'm not talking about the meme at the end, I'm talking about after the surgery, he is just really nice to SpongeBob. This made me like his character overall a lot more, because Squidward is a jerk because of the situation and life he's living. When everybody loves Squidward, he can actually see SpongeBob as more of a friend and he isn't as annoyed. The reason this episode didn't make the list is because that is kind of the one thing I really like about the episode. The surgery scene is kind of annoying and the episode isn't that funny. But I will say, I do also really like the shoe being set up as a plot point early on though. It was really cool seeing it come back. And the last honorable mention is Nightlights. This episode has a great feeling to it that makes the episode really nice to watch. SpongeBob being scared of the dark in the beginning is very relatable and they set it up very well. Then the whole sleepover part with Patrick is great, and Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy showing up didn't really bother me. What drags this episode down is the comedy being kind of weak and the plot being a bit unfocused. I still like it though. And the number 1 best episode of season 5 is, in my opinion, Rise and Shine. This is an unpopular opinion, I know, but Rise and Shine is one of the best post-movie episodes for me. People seem to think this episode is really boring, and I honestly can't see why, because first of all, it's 4 minutes long. The episode is over before you even have time to check the clock. And second of all, it's hilarious. Patrick being dumb in this episode works so well, and him being the only character and not having anyone to play off of kind of works in the episode's favor. Because usually when Patrick is being really stupid, there is someone there who's like reacting to it, often like Squidward. But here he's alone, and that kind of makes the episode flow very good. Also, Patrick's house as a setting is great because we rarely see the inside of it, and this episode takes full advantage of the setting. My favorite joke might be the attic joke, because the repetition here is one of the best repetitious jokes I have ever seen.
The attic! Wait, I don't have an attic! Oh, I know! The attic!
And there's actually quite a few really great jokes in this episode, like the brush my pants and wash my teeth. Is that yeah, that's probably right. That joke also had me rolling. But that's my list. Thanks for watching.